I mean, I think Pam Bondi is actually great, and Kash Patel are great, but they just got there,
Right.
So then they just got there, but they're in a hostile environment. They're not in a friendly environment.
Right.
So it's like if you suddenly got put in captain of a ship, but the crew was previously your enemy.
Right.
The entire crew was
Right.
previously your enemy. It's not like you have like magical powers. You get made captain of a ship with a hostile crew. You still have a hostile crew.
Right.
You've got to bring in people who are going to be helpful as opposed to obstructionist.
Right.
But yeah, I think the public will be rightly frustrated if no one is prosecuted for the Epstein client list, no one at all. Like at least, I don't know, the top 5 or something, like some number. There should at least be an attempted prosecution of the worst offenders.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
And of course, you've seen the very strong letter. We will get everything. We will have it in our possession. We will redact it, of course, to protect grand jury information and confidential witnesses, but the American people have a right to know. And Donald Trump is the most transparent president in our nation's history. So not only will America get the full Epstein files, they will get JFK, they will get Martin Luther King.
2 days later.
On the FBI front, the head of the New York field office, James Dennehy, has retired under intense pressure.
What's up, y'all? Gerald here, creator of Gospel Chops and your host for this YouTube channel, back with another video. Now, y'all, it seems that the first unforced era of the new Trump administration, Trump 2.0, has occurred before our very eyes. And who was the cause of this unforced error? None other than Pam Bondi, the new Attorney General of the United States, Director of the Department of Justice, came out recently and said, "Oh, I got the Epstein files. I got everything you need. We're going to drop a bombshell on America and give you some information that you haven't seen before." Well, she found out the hard way that trying to fool Americans is not the move in this day and age. And it might mess around and get you fired in this new Trump administration because it shows you to be unprofessional, unprepared, and perhaps unworthy of the position that you have been thrust into. Donald Trump has put a lot of faith in you, and for you to come out here on your first move with the Epstein files and do something corny like this, well, it's problematic to independent, everyday Americans like myself when we look at the situation and say, hey, you invited conservative vloggers and influencers to the White House to make a big spectacle. And even they are upset at being used in the way that they were as props for your show, only to release these binders of Epstein files that were almost completely redacted. The influencers felt used. And this is not the energy you want to give out in this new Trump administration, girl. If you don't tread lightly, you will find yourself fired within the first few months of your appointment because America ain't having it. America is well informed. America knows what's going on, and we are looking to get what we voted for. And it seems like maybe you might not be in line with this new administration. You may not have a clear understanding to think that you can come out here and pull the sham on America. Somebody ain't gave you the playbook. Somebody hasn't informed you of what is going on here in America, and it is a total transition of government, including people in your position. If you ain't ready, sis, I suggest you resign. Because what you have done here is put a blemish on the new Trump administration that didn't have to be. I'll repeat it again. It's an unforced error that didn't have to occur. So now you got people like Mark Levin who are coming out and trying to invite you on his show last weekend to try to clean up the mess on aisle 7. But it's a mess you made, a mess that you didn't have to make. And I'm glad that you are trying to take corrective action. And I hope that you learned from this early mistake. It's amazing and astonishing that you would make such a mistake, such a big mistake so early in your tenure. But I hope you learn from it. I hope you take corrective action. And I hope that appearing on Mark Levin's show has helped you realize the error of your ways.
And now we learn, thanks to you, that you've been stonewalled by people in New York. Do you want to explain that?
Yes, Mark. So as you know, we released about 120 pages of documents, and I started asking for these documents right when I came into office and before Kash Patel was in there. So I ended up getting about 120 pages. We carefully redacted them, of course, to be sure the 254 young girls, women who are victims of sex crimes and sex trafficking, their personal information was redacted and out of there to protect them. So I'm going through it and I kept saying, there has to be more. There has to be more. I'm assured that's it. Kash asked the same questions. Assured there's no more. I found out, this week that a source told me New York, SDNY, they're sitting on thousands of pages of documents regarding Epstein. Thousands. And of course, you've seen the very strong letter. We will get everything. We will have it in our possession. We will redact it, of course, to protect grand jury information and confidential witnesses. But the American people have a right to know. And Donald Trump is the most transparent president in our nation's history. So not only will America get the full Epstein files, they will get JFK, they will get Martin Luther King.
Well, that's fantastic. But I assume the Southern District of New York is or has been holding on to this information for a reason. That is, they don't like the names on the list. And of course, we know New York is a hotbed of the Democrat Party, and that includes in legal circles. Do you think that's part of the issue here, that they're trying to protect a lot of names and individuals?
Mark, I have not reviewed the information yet. And as a lawyer, as a prosecutor, I want to review everything before I make a firm conclusion. But I think it's very interesting that they withheld that from us. And I will find out who withheld it, and they will not be working for us anymore.
So once all that's gathered, you're just going to put it out in the public with the obvious necessary redactions, including the people who were the victims and the phone numbers and so forth. But for the perpetrators, I assume that we'll see those names, yes?
Well, certainly. There's nothing can be withheld on that. Of course, as you know, grand jury information, anything confidential will be withheld under the law. And we're going to do everything in our power to protect the victims so they're not further victimized also.
Now, y'all, if you're real about what you're trying to do, and you're real about your new position, and you're real about your place in this new Trump administration, you're going to take some strong action, because you understand you work for a man who would take strong action were he in your shoes. And you're going to try to get that energy that flows from the head, from the president. You're going to try to tap into that and say, what would Donald Trump do if he made a mistake like me? And who knows, Donald Trump might have pulled you to the side and told you what actions to take in the back room. But Pam Bondi said, I have been fleeced. I have been tricked. This Southern District of New York, this FBI office down there where all of this corruption has been taking place, has played me, has embarrassed me in front of my countrymen and women. Well, you got to take action. You got to redeem yourself. You're fresh in office. And as Elon said in that opening clip, you are going into a hostile environment. It's not like these people are accepting you with open arms. These people hate you because you are trying to break up the bureaucracy that they have established over decades. It took them time to build this to the point where they feel like they are not beholden to anybody, including the president. So when you step in here and you try to take corrective action, of course they're going to test you. What is the right thing to do? Go down there and smack them folks. Put boot to tail and get some folks in line. Well, y'all, seems like that's exactly what she did. Soon as Kash Patel got confirmed and got in there, they went down to the Southern District of New York and went ham, such that the director of that office has now resigned. They said, hey, We understand from a whistleblower, see, there's always one. Y'all ain't never gonna get away with it completely. There's always one. A whistleblower contacted the office and said, hey, there's thousands of documents, tens of thousands maybe, in this office that they haven't turned over. That stuff that they gave to you, they thought that you was going to accept that and call it a day. But there's tens of thousands of documents down here in this office that have not been turned over. I think you need to address it. Thank you, whistleblower, for blowing that whistle. Pam Bondi went down there, and shortly thereafter, the director of that office has resigned.
Top FBI officials are resisting, openly resisting. Let me just read you from an email that was sent by the assistant director in charge of the New York field office yesterday. His name is James Dennehy. He sent this extraordinarily blunt email to his staff challenging the Trump administration. He said, today we find ourselves in the middle of a battle of our own, as good people are being walked out of the FBI and others are being targeted because they did their jobs in accordance with the law and FBI policy.
So who's in charge at the New York FBI field office? Who's withholding Epstein docs from the Attorney General? James Dennehy is running the show there. There he is. This is the guy who emailed his whole staff to dig in after Trump took office. And don't forget that James Comey's daughter is an assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. She worked on the Epstein and Maxwell cases. She's kind of knee deep in this. Epstein was facing sex trafficking charges in Lower Manhattan. Where's all that paperwork? The FBI seized computers, surveillance videos, banking records, file cabinets, and photographs from all of Epstein's properties in New Mexico, the Virgin Islands, Palm Beach, and in New York. The Justice Department also gave Epstein a sweetheart non-prosecution deal 17 years ago. Where are those files? The Bureau of Prisons. Where are those files? You remember where Epstein killed himself? I asked Bill Barr about that, why everything seemed to go wrong that night.
When I first heard all the information and all the coincidences here, I was suspicious.
What were the coincidences? I mean, those were a lot of coincidences.
Well, one of the cameras was out.
Right.
He was supposed to have a cellmate. The cellmate left. They didn't replace the cellmate. And the guards who were supposed to check him every half hour didn't check him.
My EMT source said he was on the scene immediately to pull Epstein's body out to the morgue. And when he got to the cell, he saw 7 people there touching Epstein's body and moving stuff around.
And there you have it, y'all. Seems like James Dennehy has chosen to retire rather than be fired because he wants that retirement. He wants those bennies to keep coming in. But it's evident that people within the bureaucracy, within the government, have taken place as opposition and felt comfortable enough there. They've been there long enough to dig in, as Mr. Dennehy said to his staff at the FBI. Y'all, you are beholden to the executive branch. Not only that, you are beholden to the DOJ, who is appointed by the executive branch. And here you are, trying to stage a resistance, saying you're not going to turn over the Epstein files. You're only going to give them a little bit because in the last administration, that was enough to keep them quiet. That was enough to keep certain people protected. Well, it calls for deeper investigation. Why are you protecting certain people? Who's paying you? Whose payroll are you on other than the federal government? Seem like you working for a higher power and might be more obedient to that power than the government. Y'all, the FBI is corrupt. And we know the FBI has been corrupt since Hoover. So it's going to take a whole lot of work for Kash Patel to get in there and unearth some things, for Pam Bondi to get in there and dig up some things. We knew that. That's why we voted the way we voted. Because as Elon Musk says, had we lost this election, it might have been over for America, y'all. So we are grateful for a new president. We are grateful for a new administration. We are grateful for them putting a smack down, putting boot to tail in the FBI. Listen, don't just focus on the Southern District of New York. If it can happen in New York, it can happen anywhere. I need you to go from state to state, office to office, turning over tables, moving some furniture around, shaking things up and firing folks, putting new folks in place that are America first in their ideals. That's the only way to turn this thing around, y'all. And get some of them folks out of that main office in Washington, D.C. and send them over to Utah, send them over to Alaska, send them over to New Mexico, and let them be crime fighters. Get them out of the office so that they can disconnect themselves from politics. You are not hired as an FBI agent to be a politician. You are a law enforcement officer, and I need you to get back in touch with your true purpose for being hired in the first place. Y'all let me know what you think about this. I'd love to know your thoughts, and don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the video so we can get more people involved in the conversation, y'all. And like I always say, always remember, never forget, without the gospel, it's just chops. Until next time, peace.